Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here this beautiful Sunday, and I want to thank you all for joining me on this lovely day outside. You could be anywhere, but you're here with us. Thank you so much. Welcome to the Electronic Press Kits, this year's second professional development event presented by Cleveland Rocks, past, present, and future, and supported by the Ohio Arts Council and Cuyahoga Arts and Culture. I want to thank you all for being here, and I encourage you to visit our website, clevelandrocksppf.org, and make a donation, please. Help us continue to be able to offer professional development, support, and additional outlets for Cleveland area musicians. Please take one of the flyers we made today. It lists upcoming concerts in our Waterloo Makes Music series. We're hosting free local music right here in the neighborhood. Thanks again to the support of the Ohio Arts Council and Cuyahoga Arts and Culture. There's also information about our gallery show next door, our current showing in the Space Rock Gallery, featuring photos of Cleveland artists from the 70s until now. That show will be up until the end of May. You'll see a description of our music incubator on this flyer, supporting local music projects and entrepreneurs. And we're excited to announce our campaign to open Cleveland Rocks Shop in the former Music Save storefront. We need your support to make this a place for local music. Again, please consider using the donation link on the flyer and supporting our efforts. Thanks. I want to introduce our panelists now and thank them again for spending this beautiful Sunday afternoon with us. To my left, Michael McFarland of Listen CLE, a new way to approach local music, grouping playlists by moods and feelings rather than by genre. Check it out at listencle.com. And as he also is the artist Messmaker, he plays catchy, soulful, love-struck, anthemic indie rock at messmakermusic.com.
That's correct.
Thank you. Wallace Settles, thank you for being here. Wallace works at the Grog Shop, and he's the booking manager at Feng Shui Records. Thanks for being here, Wallace. James Carroll, talent buyer at the Beachland Ballroom and Tavern. Thank you for being here, James.
Thank you.
And Dawn Marshman, tour marketing manager at Live Nation and manager of Cleveland-raised artist Madeline Finn. Thank you very much. Well, I want to get into it and ask you some questions about EPKs and get your opinions on them. We all know artists need them, and people want to know more about what they should put in there and how to reach you and how to speak to you in your areas where you're viewing them and what you know about them. So I'll put this out in kind of a round robin. I'll ask each of you one question and then go to the next person, but all of you can answer as I go through. So let's just go ahead. What does an artist need to make sure they have an EPK? What's really important to be in there?
Gets to me first.
Start with you.
All right. So I'm speaking both from the direction of being an artist myself and having to assemble an EPK. Actually, last night I was furiously updating mine to make sure if you go and look at it that it actually reflects what I'm going to talk about here. But also as someone that's been responsible for booking in a lot of different environments, whether it's for smaller festivals, for outdoor gigs related to some of the programs that Listen CLE has going on. So the most important thing in my experience with an EPK is get to the point quickly. Who are you? What do you sound like? And what are you going to deliver for the person that you're reaching out to? If you are a punk rock band and you're really good at that, have some live video of you tearing it up with a crowd that's really into it. If you are a dreamy atmospheric band, you want to show that in the graphics, in the text, all of that. Also, you want to make it really, really easy for, if they decide to book you, for them to use the assets on there. So having press shots that are able to access in high quality formats. Having a bio that can be broken down, if you use the first line of it, that works as a description. If you use the first paragraph, that works as a description. If you use the whole thing, because there are different applications that these pieces are going to be used in. So really it's, in short, it's about putting out the important stuff about you so that they can know, one, if they're interested in you, two, if you've got some credibility, and 3, what you're going to deliver if you are booked for the event.
Go ahead, Don.
I think he covered that pretty well.
Yeah, I don't know what to say now.
I brought a list of what I think should be on EPK, and I guess from a marketing point of view, I like things to be a little more hefty, even though I like the basics. When you're marketing, you kind of want content as well to actually use logos, live photos, extra press photos, anything to help promote your band. And also, I think it's great to have a short bio, like a paragraph, and a long bio. So I think when I get an artist bio and it's a whole page, I don't want to take the time to shorten that myself, because no one's going to read a whole page. You just kind of want to cut to the chase. So make it easy for anyone you're sending it, and actually create both of those. So you might have the occasional person that really wants to know more about you, and then you can have a link to the extended version, but really keep your bio short and concise, and then just make the page visually accessible, like just organized and structured, and make it as easy as possible for whomever you're sending it to get to what they need. Maybe they just need the bio, maybe they just need a photo, maybe they need a logo. I also think it's great to put past press. Like if you want to highlight a link, you can have a section like, here's some really great press I've had in the past, and any testimonials from anyone. Your contact, I know that sounds obvious, but how do you get a hold of, who do you get a hold of to book you? What's your phone or what's your email? And then any press releases. I know that's probably a whole nother discussion on press releases, but I don't know that everyone uses that, but sometimes there's some good information in there to have, and I think that's just an important thing to add in the mix as well. Sorry, I feel like I'm talking on. I did create, I'm a list maker, so. And past bookings, maybe highlight that you played at the Beachland, or you played at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for an event, or you played, supported bigger artists. I think that's great for people like James and Wallace to get that information, that they have perspective on whether they want to book you in general. And then I'll let them talk more on that.
This is to my hip hop people in the room. I see a couple of y'all. And we drop music quicker in the hip hop genre than most other styles of music. You have to be current. Like, if you put a single out on Friday, you need to change your EPK. It needs to be fixed. The picture has to change. All that. That's something I notice all the time from rap artists. You have to be current. Because you can't put a song out and then, I want to show, and I get your EPK and the songs from 2014. I guess it throws me off really bad. I need bios from everybody. And I see faces in this room that I put you on show. Now I don't have bios for you. Like, I see you, I'm looking at you. So it has to be fixed. Like, it's a problem. They covered everything else. I'm not gonna be too long with it, but it's really a problem for the venues. Like, I just booked the album release for a local band, and they gave me a whole website with 75 songs, 40 pictures, and no bio. Like, it doesn't make any sense. I think it's silly.
Well, and just to add on to that, I mean, I do agree on the update, because one of the biggest things that happens is we do get a lot of out-of-date content.
It has to stop.
Yeah, and I think the big thing that happens is in the development, in the beginning stages, there's a lot of moving parts that, you got a new logo, but you didn't really put it on your release to us. So we're kind of going off your old stuff. Photos, videos.
We got a new drummer.
We got a new member of the band.
But there's no picture of him.
There's no picture, there's no bio adding to what the position of that person. Stage plot, be stage aware. You want people to know what your footprint is. Like, when we're looking into getting newer artists, we're trying to see, okay, how do you fit within the artists that maybe we're putting you with? Or if you can do it, do you fit on this stage, or do you work in this environment? There's a lot of little details. You don't have to be extremely like, all there with putting everything on the first, initial reach out, but more information is always key, and if you keep updating things and you keep getting people aware of what's going on, You know, they're gonna be like, okay, you're involved with this, so we know that if you're doing enough to make sure that your image is coming across through just the simplest first step, which is the EPK, then we know that you're serious about everything else. You know, it allows us to know that we're not working with outdated information. There's streaming numbers that become a thing too. If you go from the web base, which is more common nowadays, you want to give that kind of information. It may not be so important locally because you already have a local base, but as you grow and get outside of the city, people are going to look at how your awareness is. They want to know if you're getting listens in New York, in Chicago, wherever. So that's information that people look at. When I was working with Marcus on his EPK stuff back in the day, I mean, we started with a PDF, you know, and it was clickable links. We had an image. We made a big branding thing around it, so it had all this, you know, kind of links to the stories of all the press we got, and it was very eye-catching. Now it's kind of more of like you want a one-stop shop, which a lot of people are doing, like the meta tagging, where it basically has your little hub that has all the information. Because people like us are going to look at that and they're going to be like, all right, I know where your Spotify link is, I know where your Facebook is, your wherever, you know, whatever social media platform you have. And that helps us because now we know what you can fit with, what you feel with, and then as we kind of develop with you, once that first step has been done, then you want to continuously update it because other people are now going to start looking and they want to hear what's going on. So,
And I think it's important for you guys to know when they get submissions for someone opening for whoever, they're going to pick the person that sends them the best information that they can easily look up. And if it's between someone or someone else and someone just seems way more organized, you're probably in your gut going to go with the person who's a little more organized. So
Instantly.
I think you just want to present yourself in a good way from the get-go. That's just sort of my experience on that side.
One of the things that I'd like to add to that is things that establish credibility. So, for example, I've toured all over the U.S. Playing, you know, tiny places. I don't have a huge following, but I do have a touring history, which means that a lot of places have been like, okay, this guy, we're willing to put him on a stage. One of the things I include on my EPK is a map of past tour dates that shows I've been all over the U.S. It doesn't have a ton of detail, but if you click through, you can find out what the venue was, you can find out, you know, what the city was, all of that. If you really wanted to, you could verify all of that. But once I added that, the number of responses I got from, you know, cold messaging venues in other cities saying, hey, I'm coming through on this date, I'm willing to put together the entire bill for the night, here's my EPK, like, it doubled once I added that map. Because, you know, having someone saying, I haven't been to your city, you know nothing about me, I have no fan base there, I've got nothing here, but look, all these other people were willing to have me on their stages, so I'm probably not a complete, you know, complete waste of your time. It helps hold the attention a little bit more. So if you have things like that help build the credibility of you as an artist, like was mentioned, you know, if you've played notable stages, if you open for notable acts, include those things because that will also help perk up ears.
Yeah, I was going to follow up with one of my questions would be how often should an artist update their EPK, but from what I'm hearing, it should be pretty much as soon as they put out a new piece of content or just very regularly?
Whenever anything changes.
yeah.
If you cut your dreadlocks off, you need to take a picture of yourself without your dreads. If you dye your hair pink, you need a picture of your pink hair. If you fire the basses, you need to get a picture of the new bass guy. And it has to happen. It's vital. It's vital.
And it also does help in the marketing aspect too, because you're thinking there's a double-edged sword here. You're trying to get on more shows, you're trying to get more exposure, you're trying to get more out there. So on your end, you want to be up to date, you want to look professional. On our end, we want to make sure we're not misleading people, you know, because one thing that could be a backfire is, you know, we've had artists that have hit us up that have toured, you know, with major artists, you know, but they were the fourth guitar player, you know, but they're gonna try to make it look like that was their big thing. So we kind of want to play off of the real facts of the content that you're giving us, because if we get misleaded, that's not going to look good for you, because we're never going to consider you again, or we're going to put you on a very, very thin ice if that happens. And it's, you know, you want to think like if you were going to a coffee shop, you know, and they say they got this new fresh coffee in there, you want to try that, well, and then they say, oh, well, see, it's kind of fresh. Now you've already been misled. So it's that same idea, but you're now just thinking it in the business sense of music of we're the ones booking you, and then you're the ones wanting to be booked. So do you want to be misleaded just like we do? No. We want to all be on the same page. So always think that way, because the more you update, the more you keep us informed on things. Oh, it's like we already know that this is going to be a great working relationship moving forward.
And you know all the genres is like it's certain styles of rock music. You might put out a different, you might change your whole base of your music for this certain project. We need to know that, because I could book you for a whole different set of shows with a whole different set of people, get you in a whole different room. But we don't know that. There's no way we can move forward. That's why EPK has to be on point.
Is there a part of the EPK that you typically notice first, something that sticks out to you?
The pictures,
Yeah.
Agree, yeah, pictures.
first thing.
Photos are big.
Is
And just the organization of it is everything I need on that page. And can I find it easily? That's me specifically. But yeah, I would say bio and photos, videos, I think a link to your YouTube page if you have one. Basically, and a link to your music. I mean, that's the bottom line. I know for Madeline, I always use SoundCloud because you don't have to have an account to listen to that. So I know that when I send that link to anyone, they can just click it immediately and listen, and there's no like logging in and etc. So, but
I would say direct link to the latest single. That's another big thing on the updated side, because the more and more you update things, you want to make sure that the most recent thing you're putting out is the first thing that you're clicking on for the music. Because there's so many times that, you know, you have your hit song that's you're like, okay, I think this is going to be the selling point. Is it? Okay. Move up. There we go. The biggest selling point is what your latest thing is, what you're putting out there. Because if you have your hit song, while we do want to hear that, you can make that your second song we listen to, but we want to hear what your most recent push is, because that's going to be what we're basing the bio and info that we write and use. So.
Besides using the EPK to kind of choose who's going to be there, you're talking about needing photos and needing other materials out of the EPK to promote the band themselves. So like, I would think that this is a good time for people to invest in quality writing, spending time on it, or getting photos done professionally. Is there anything you see that's like people could need to work on more? That you get a lot of EPKs, you know, do you see stuff that is very common that people could just shore up?
photos,
wait.
photos. Go ahead, Wallace.
Sometimes the EPKs are very long-winded. It should be, if you haven't really toured and done any big stuff, it should be one page, one quick page, like 4 or 5 links. This is my music. This is my bio. You know, so this is contact. Do get in and get out. Yeah, let's make it easier on everybody.
And it's something that will always evolve too. I mean, like, you know, now that most CPKs are going through, you know, hidden links on people's websites, or you can make it a point to be immediately there. I mean, your website is technically an EPK in general, but everybody does kind of want a one-stop shop. They want something they can look through and be able to get as much information from it as possible, as quick as possible. Because we're getting, you know, I know on all of our ends, we get into a position where we get emailed hundreds of times a day about shows and opportunities and things like that. So for us, we want something quick and easy that we can latch onto. Yeah, because if we don't, we're probably going to move on. You know, like you can even do a simple 3 kind of phases of it all. You have your web EPK setup that is more the content that has everything, your tour history, your links, your videos, your photos, all that stuff, but you have to keep updating. And then you can make like a one-line kind of thing that can kind of be able to be condensed of all that information, so that when we just get an email, we look at this and it's like, okay, there's all this stuff. And that's actually becoming very common from agents as well. They don't really send us an EPK. They send us these little blurbs, and they're like, all right, now you got to follow it. Sometimes we're attracted to it. Sometimes we're kind of like, all right, on to the next one. But It's just got to be something that we easily want to interact with, because to us, and especially if we're kind of saying that, then there's bigger pictures that are definitely doing this. If we're deterred, now you already know your first step wasn't working, so you got to figure that out again.
I'm also going to bring up, I know I just blurted out photos, but to be honest, do you need a variation of photos? You have to think, if you're not creating an ad mat, or how is that going to look on Instagram story or the feed or a square, you need to give the promoter a variety to choose from so that they can make that work. And I think that's one thing that artists don't think about is, okay, I have this horizontal image, how I can't fit that. I can't use that for a feed or a story. So you really have to proactively give them everything you can think of where they're going to use that photo. So I feel like a variety of photos is a good idea. So you have vertical, you have horizontal, you have more space on the end so they can add text or whatever they need if they're going to create a promotion out of it. So just another tidbit.
That's a good point, actually. I will add on to that. One of the more common things that are happening now on our way of marketing. So in Instagram and Facebook and different things, you've probably been seeing. Okay. You've probably been seeing that it's now photo first, and then you slide over and it's the poster or image. Well, because of marketing on these different platforms, the photo is really the only thing that can be pushed. And they're now allowing you to do a slideshow, which you weren't able to do before, which is good. But for us, you want a square box or something that can fit in there, because when we're marketing a show, that image has to be something that fits in there and catches your eyes, because the poster and the flyers that we could put everywhere else is now not allowed on some of these social platforms for us to push. So that is a big thing that helps with having different dimensions, because for us, when we're trying to do that, it becomes an issue when when we have a long view, which is good for a header. It doesn't really work for us doing a promoted push. So.
On a similar note, as far as social media goes, one of the things that I always encourage artists to do is make sure that they've got a bio version that fits in about 200 characters, so you can fit it in a tweet with other information about the show if you need it. So if you were to go on to my artist EPK, you'll see the very first line of my bio is bolded. Like that's if you only have one sentence, that's the one. The next sentence in there, if you take just that can be tweet length. Everything after that is extra. But those are the pieces that you need to be able to sum it up in 10 words what this act is, so you can put that on a poster or flyer or headline, whatever, and then a slightly longer version that can go into social media promotions and not have the read more button before you can actually get to that.
And if you want to take a look at Michael's EPK, you can follow this link on your phone. It is bit.ly/EPKMESS.
That's a nice link. I'll probably use that myself.
Very good. bit.ly/EPKMESS. So you mentioned using SoundCloud as a preferred linking for playing artist music because it doesn't require people to have an account. Are there if artists are linking to additional content, what do you want to see besides SoundCloud? Is there other things that you're typically seeing? What do you want to see in the linked content from them?
I'm heavily focused on Spotify numbers. The reality, everyone uses Spotify. She's right about the Bandcamp thing for sure. But I don't. SoundCloud. She's right about that. But Spotify matters. It really, really matters. Those numbers count. I see that from agents all the time. When you get the agent email, the first line of Spotify numbers is this. It's the first thing you see on every email. You have to make sure your Spotify is on point. And you guys know all the tricks to get your numbers up. I feel like it's just the strongest music streaming thing we got. So this is my focus. This is what I look for. If you see me, I'm going to Spotify first. That's what I'm stopping.
I mean, I think as far as housing content, it's sort of along the same line of what you're asking, but you can also use like Dropbox. So all my links from Madeline's page all go to Dropbox essentially. So just it's an easy platform to upload content, whether that be your press photo, a live snippet. I know at least on the marketing side, I really love when it's great to have a YouTube video and I can watch the whole official video that you put out. But if the market's not really familiar with you, I think a great like 15, 30-second snippets of a live performance is great for them to use to promote. So that's content that I generally really like to see. That's not always on people's EPKs because it's more of like touring, but I think it's a great extra thing to add. Everyone's attention span is short these days, so if they can get a 15-second clip of what you sound like or 30-second clip, I think that's essential for a lot of promoters just to be able to have content to push you out. So when you're scrolling through Instagram on Beachland, you can see, listen to a 30-second clip and be like, oh, that's actually that sounds like something I'd love to check out more. But I think that's a really good extra content to have, as well as all the other things.
To second that, when you guys do paid promo online, videos are very, very effective. She's right about that. So a 15, 20-second video to make for every promoter to send to them is really, really important. It should be on EPK too. Because that garage shop, we use those more every show. If you send it to us, we'll run an ad for it. If you run an ad with just a picture of your band or a flyer, it doesn't work as well.
And it's also more eye candy as well. People are more attracted to a video, especially like a teaser video of some kind, than they are with just a flat image, because they're just, we know how the doom scrolling works, so you want something that's kind of sticking out. And also it could be shared on stories and stuff like that too, whereas an image on stories is, again, something that you just kind of go past. So think what you normally do. If it's attracting to you, then that's what we want as well. That's the same thought. So don't ever overthink it. Like none of us are here saying that we are the end-all be-alls of how it works. It's just more of like what you personally do in everyday life is the same stuff we're looking for. Just make sure the content is clean, efficient, sounds good, looks good, information's there and on point.
Yeah, stay algorithm friendly.
Yes.
Try not to curse as much.
And no nudity.
No nudity. Not on camera.
Gotta go redo my EPK.
Yeah, because the videos, they crack the algorithm. They do. The flyers don't.
Yeah, I think to James's point about when I said variations of photos, variations of the 15, 30-second clips, that's like feed, square, story, vertical. Like you have to have all three. You don't want the promoter to have to format that, and they won't, to be honest. Like they're probably not going to take the time to do it for you, so make it as easy as possible. Just have it for them, and I think it's just proactively thinking about, like they said, how do you consume music and what brings you into the fold when you scroll through Instagram or story. That's how you want to present yourself as well. So.
Dawn, you mentioned Madeline Finn's EPK. If the audience wants to check out her electronic press kit, it is at bit.ly/EPK.
Oh, it's madelinefinn.com/EPK.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. I don't
You
know
go
what I
straight
sent
to
you.
it.
That's weird. Yeah, it's just Madeline Finn Music/EPK.
By the way, he's using Bitly links. Y'all know what Bitly is?
Yeah, do you know what a Bitly link is?
Yeah, it helps.
It helps me.
Yeah.
It does help for a lot of y'all links to make them shorter.
Yeah, this isn't about Bitly links, but I agree with Wallace. We can segue into that being a helpful tool. It basically allows you to track, where your views are coming from, how many people are clicking on links. It's pretty cool to actually attach that to when you're trying to promote your shows and you have a ticket link to see, did that come from Facebook? Did that come from Instagram? Did that come from the website? What's working? What isn't working? But that's probably for another session.
All right. So that's madelinefinn.com/EPK. facebook.com/EPK.
MadelinFinMusic.com/EPK.
Excellent. We talked a little bit about numbers. Spotify numbers matter. I've seen people post numbers and little infographics of, we did this many dates on the last tour, we played in front of this many people, we have this many aggregated streams. Is it important to see? Do you like seeing those kind of numbers or infographics and EPKs when you get them?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like with national bands, you always check like the Spotify. Do you have any listeners in Cleveland or Ohio or Columbus? So it's super duper important. Just have it on point so we can know. I check it, Spotify stuff, and like I said, that's the first thing I check. Anybody else with me in here?
No, I agree with that, because I mean, I definitely keep track of that. I mean, one of the biggest things that we've been trying to figure out personally is we've been trying to figure out radius areas as well, you know, because we get a lot of artists that come from, you know, bigger markets, and their numbers are fluxed because of that, you know. If you're big in New York, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be big in Cleveland, you know, and vice versa. So information on like listening hits and stuff like that is very big, and it allows you to start building on your own self too, because as you keep growing, you want to make sure those numbers are bigger. And you, on the artist side of Spotify and stuff, have more information than we do personally. So that's another thing to keep in track. So the more and more you study your listens and things like that, you want to give that information out, because we don't know. I mean, unless you get to the point where it doesn't even matter, then you don't have to care. So.
And I think as far as numbers, not just Spotify specifically, but let's say you played a festival, how many people attended that festival? That's kind of, you know, a good thing to add, just so people have a perspective of, you know, how many people did you perform potentially in front of? What was that reach? I think that's a good number, I guess, to have as a key point.
And y'all numbers locally don't mean that much to us. We know who you are. We know who your friends are. We know who to promote to. The thing we need you to make sure, we need it to be clean and fresh new music and good pictures and all that. Your numbers will come up eventually. So we're talking more on the national scale where we scale and all this stuff. But locally, y'all need to worry about making sure everything look good. So I can say, like, I work on Bright Winter Fest, and it's real easy. I can just hit your button, new song pops up. There's no issues, no problems. Everything's mixed and mastered. It's not well, the song's not really done yet. We ain't finished it. Well, I put it up anyway. You can't do that. You know, if you put out good content that we can hear, we throw you on the stage, and all 55 people will come see you, and they go home.
And actually, that's another big thing too. I will say with the EPK, when it comes to festivals, they're very much wanting to look for a one-stop shop of information, because they're dealing with thousands of submissions every day, because everybody wants to be on every festival because they want that opportunity. So they want the content to be the freshest, most recent stuff ever, because that's what entices them to say they fit. Because most of the times you're dealing, instead of it being a booker, you're dealing it more of being a curator, which, you know, I've done with Ingenuity, I've done with a few other events. I look at it like I want to curate this whole setting. So what's going to fit in the full scale, not just necessarily a night in my club, you know?
Right.
So that is a very big key, because I know more people want to look into that, and I know as you're growing as an artist, you want to look into that kind of realm. That is the number one key, because especially if you even go to an artist submissions page, whichever you see that, if you have to go through artist submission, that means you're definitely in the first step of the door. They haven't reached out to you, which means, okay, you have a lot working against you, because you're hoping to catch their attention immediately from that page. Because I will tell you, that is where we get all these emails every day, is from that submissions page, and we're kind of overrun with them, so we're kind of wanting to get, all right, does this work? Does this fit? Have they played in our market? Is this part of it all? So that information is very key to trying to get into that realm as well, because venues have different structures than a festival does. So
Right.
always keep that in note.
With the festival stuff, you come up with janky, man, it don't look good, we go skip you
Yeah.
instantly. Like,
Yeah.
if that link don't come up, you're not getting on the festival.
I can even tell you on certain artists, there's like times where you get content and you're like, I already know what this artist is, and then I want to promote them for it. Like, I've already booked them, I want them on there, and then I go to get content and it's all out of date, or it's not really what their style is that I was inspired to book them for. Because as they said earlier, there is that thing where people go different routes. They had, originally they might have been folk, now they're doing electronic, or they're now electronic, now they're doing rock, now they're doing hip hop, now they're doing this or whatever. So those things could be very, 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 beneficial for us to not make sure we're not messing up what the direction of this was. So.
Yeah, like I was working on a local festival about 5 months ago. There's an artist I know is really good. I booked them at Grog Shop. They're awesome. They draw people. But when I was at the meeting with everybody else, and they had their EPK, I played the music. You couldn't hear anything. The Spotify the songs were like 45 seconds long. Like, what happened? This person's awesome. They can't be on the festival. I'm looking right at you. You know what I'm saying? It happens a lot.
Committees.
The committee
Always
doesn't.
think of
They don't know.
committees, yes.
The committee doesn't know your people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They need the EPK to be on point so that they can understand why it's good. Why I love this person. He's a great artist. But then they know his website is crap. Look at this picture. His music doesn't sound right. It's not mixed and mastered. You know what I'm saying? Y'all gotta tighten it up.
And it happens on national levels too. I will also say that, like, when we're looking into the festival realm, since there is committees, there are other people involved than just us. So it's not just us that says, hey, this is the right way, and then it goes and happens. You could get past the first door of us, but then you still have to have that content work for other people that have different mindsets as well. There's been times where I've worked on events where I know this is a huge, huge, huge artist. I know what content to give them, but then they do their own research and they type in, and then they find that one very inappropriate song
And
or
then you're
video,
done.
and then they're immediately not there. So you have to control your content. If that's something you really want to stick with, there's nothing wrong with that, because we're never here to say you should censor your art. And I don't ever want that to be noted, because it's your art, it's your music. Do not let anybody, us included, stop it. But at the same time, if there's certain directions you're trying to go, just be aware that some content won't be for everybody. And it's sometimes not just the one person you thought was all there to be the one to make it. Because it's on the World Wide Web, meaning anybody could Google search you and find it out, and you want to make sure what it's being found is what you want being found.
I think another thing to note when you are pitching for a fest or to perform the Beachland or perform anywhere is to add fans of, so people have an idea of what you sound like. Like that can have a quick, similar to, and then list other acts that you sound similar to, because I find that very helpful. It's just a quick glance into like, okay, this might not make sense for this, or this makes sense for this. Or if I'm trying to actually do marketing and do affinity lists, especially for artists that are on the smaller level that I might not be familiar with, I want to know what other artists you're similar to. And it's really difficult to research that for smaller artists, and I'm sure you guys see this on Spotify when you say, similar artists, and it doesn't really, like when you're real small, it doesn't really match your similar artists, to be honest, until you start to get a little bit bigger and have more streams, and then it sort of, the algorithm works itself out, and a lot of that list does actually match who you sound like. I think on Madeline Finn it says she sounds like, I don't know, a bunch of artists that, like a violin player or something, and I'm just like, what? But I just think, so that as a promoter, you don't have to search that. So when we're spending money on that 30-second video clip you're sending, I can actually do advertising based around X, Y, and Z bands that are larger than you, but that are affinity artists to you. And it's nice that you're providing that information to me, because I don't always know what that is. So I think that's super key as well, is really providing affinity artists to whomever you're sending information to.
So you get a lot of these EPKs, you go through a lot of them. You mentioned some things that people shouldn't do, like have broken links or outdated info. Is there anything that immediately turns you off about an EPK? I know you're thinking about fit for your venue, fit for the rest of the acts or the person they're opening for, fit for the festival, but you go through a lot. Is there something that immediately you're like, I can't spend time on this?
Besides what we said before?
I mean, as the things go, when it comes to festivals, again, it's a curated idea. You know, I mean, unless you're talking the giant festivals that have, you know, way many spots to fill. But even then, you know, thinking that there's, you know, a festival with 2,000 spaces on it, you know, that's still something you got to figure out. How do you become one of those 2,000, which sound like a lot, but really, there's everybody wants to be a part of it. And then there's the occasional random, you had the spot, and then somebody bigger just randomly dropped a new album, and they got to bump you because they have to make scheduled time. So there's things that happen in the bigger picture. On our end, you know, we're mostly, you know, in Cleveland at least, we're kind of in this structure where we're kind of architecting something that can have a vibe, have emotion. So it's not as big of an issue here, except for, as we said, about the content stuff, which, again, that's committee stuff. That's not necessarily on us all the time. But beyond that, you know, it's just pretty much sticking with the basics on the local end, and as you evolve, you kind of figure it out as it goes.
Great. Michael, I want to ask you about this platform you put together. We're having this discussion because lots of people in Cleveland need electronic press kits or need to make them better. You saw some of that and created.
So one of the things, David mentioned at the beginning what Listen Sealy does. There are kind of three different legs to what we're building right now. One is the playlisting campaign that we're doing, that we're trying to get into local businesses so that you're hearing local music when you go into your local coffee shop. Another one of them is a busking initiative where we're trying to get more live music out onto the streets of Cleveland. The third one is a performer directory. That it's free to submit to. If you go to listencle.com, you'll see performer directory. You can submit right there, and we're still building out the feature set of that. But the idea behind that was that it can act as a mini EPK. It might not have the depth that a full-on artist EPK is, but for a lot of people that are starting out locally, having the picture, having the bio, having the links, having all of those in one easy to point to spot that they don't have to learn how to build an entire website for, we thought that was a valuable resource. We currently have a fundraiser going, which fortunately is doing well enough that we're going to be able to build out some additional features to it, that we're going to be able to add the ability to edit your profile after you've submitted it, because right now goes in and there it is, and the whole keep it current thing, that's important. So we're going to be adding that functionality. We're going to be adding it so you can have more than just one picture, because as was mentioned, it's important to be able to have a variety that work in a variety of different settings. So if you don't have anything, submit. You'll have at least something by tomorrow to review, and if all the information looks correct, we'll put that live. It is not by any means a full EPK at this point, but it is a place to get started if you have nothing. So yeah, that's what we're working on with Listen Sealy, and we're looking to expand upon that. We're focusing locally because we want to bring attention to the talent that there is in Northeast Ohio. One thing that hasn't been discussed here that I think is important is, where does your EPK live? Is it because several years ago there were a bunch of different website services that were selling themselves as like, okay, this is where you build your artist EPK. Two of those don't exist anymore. So people put all of this time into like using this specific service to build an EPK for that tech startup to go under. So if you can, it's better to be able to have a website that you have control over, even if it's just a Wix website that you're building with their setup, but have a website that you have control over that isn't just going to disappear because the startup funding ran out on some business startup. So I think that's a really important thing to note, is where it's going to live. If you don't have a .com URL, find one that works for you, register that, and use Wix to build yourself a simple one-page, basically an EPK website, because you don't want to just be sending someone to a Facebook page or an Instagram page or any of that, because you can't have the full details of what has been described here, what you need to see on any one of those. So owning your information, having a place that it lives, having a place that you can keep it up to date and isn't just going to poof, go away, is a really important thing.
Also, I think the website is ideal, but for those who aren't able to have a website for whatever reason, or host one, or afford that at this point in their career, there are, I think Sonic Bids is one that's pretty stable as far as having an hosting and a template for you to use. And I think the other is Reverb Nation's been around for a while, and they have templates as well that you can host your EPK on, and I think both those are free services. So yeah, I agree. Ideally, having your own URL is the way to go, but I know that's not always within everyone's means or capabilities right in the beginning. So those are a couple other services that you can use. And frankly, you can actually just have it on a Google Drive. You could literally house all your content on Dropbox or Google and just send a link to that whole folder. I mean, that's a great place to actually just put everything you need.
Yeah, I think in general, it's always good to have like a drive pack of some kind. That's where you basically would put your updated photos and all your updated videos and stuff like that, because if you get booked for whatever reason, you immediately want to say like, here's all my stuff, which you could put your W9 in, you could put your stage plot in, you could put your photos in, you could put all this stuff, because it's a one-stop shop that everybody can open, and make it a accessible link so that we all have that ability to utilize that stuff. And it's great for you to easily change it, because all you have to do is delete it, and always put dates on things. I'll tell you what, if you put XYZ band _ 2019 on it, that at least knows that that's a date stamp from that. Even if that is still your official photo, at least we now know. It helps us because we can keep track of that, because maybe the next time around, be like, all right, well now this image is 5 years old. Hopefully there's something that was updated by then. But that just very, very small things that will really help you just for our sake.
Awesome. I think we can take some questions now. If anybody has any questions, please step up to the microphone.
Come and join us.
Yes,
I would appreciate it.
Yes, you
It will
do.
get it on the live stream and be recorded for posterity, so.
we saw your hand.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Dad.
Hi.
All right. Well, this is for, I guess, mainly James and Wallace. In terms of when people are sending inquiries, specifically to you guys, are there things that stick out that will actually make you click the link? Because we're talking about EPKs, but how do you actually get you to look at it? That's the question.
You can go first.
I mean, for me, like I said, I want something really well thought out. When you're sending an email for anything, you want to think of like what makes you read the email. If I just blurted a bunch of stuff out, would you be like, oh wow, this is a great email, I'm gonna definitely make sure to read this? No, and weirdly enough, we do get those emails where people just are trying to give you so much so fast, or they're utilizing, hey, I'm some such and such's friend, which yeah, sometimes can help as well, but you really want to stand out on your own professional sense. You want to make sure that the information that's being submitted is formal and informing us what you're doing. We want to be able to think, okay, it might not be right for this show that you're looking for, but it will be something we could put in our minds for the future. I like clean, I like simple, I like click, read, all right, good. I'll tell you my preferred is Spotify. I have a Spotify account. I go and click on it. I put it in my playlist, and I'm like, if this works, cool. If this doesn't, I can go back to it. If it's really out there, then it's just what it is. But
it could be bad. It could be all professional and be bad music. I still listen to it if it look good.
yeah, no. I mean, as long as it's easily readable. I mean,
I might book you on a Monday.
yeah, exactly. There's always opportunity somewhere, and I honestly believe that to be the case for everybody else, like every other venues and other things. Festivals, again, that's a little different, but when it comes to booking in a club, they want just some easy, accessible information that you can immediately just get there.
I like shiny things.
Yeah, shiny's cool.
So when the email comes through, jump at me.
Yeah.
I want a nice bright picture or a nice bright YouTube link. Like, this is what we doing. We blah, blah, blah from Ashtabula. We play psych rock. Here go the video.
Picture in the email?
It happens all the time.
Anything that stands out. I mean, if you got something that you want to really be noticed, you know, we're gonna notice it. You know, it's
When you email Grog Shop, me and Kathy, first thing we're gonna look at is the shiny, nice, good email with good information, 3 lines. I do this. Can I get on this show? Here go a picture of my band. Here goes a video. Not no long paragraph how you went to Cuyahoga Falls and your rat name was Simon and you play basketball. I don't care about none of that. Just want to know what your band do.
Simon's cool.
Send the video. Send the link.
Do you have any suggestions for a brand new band that's not even played out yet, but they're getting ready to?
That is actually a really good question, because that is probably the most common thing when it's the first starting. A lot of this information, I say, if you just get started and you're trying to get out there, it's still for your benefit to start kind of building as much of this information as possible. You know, like, I realize that there's songs and stuff that you might not have published or mastered yet, but you really are ready and excited to get out on a stage. You know, we are looking to kind of connect dots. If you have previous history with other bands, things like that, that is stuff that will help you in the beginning stages if you haven't really been able to get all your stuff together. That's more common in a local sense. On the national sense and the bigger stuff, they're gonna be looking for things that you're well put together because they're wanting to trust you in their club. You know, locally, there's verifications. There's things that we could say, okay, we know what you've been, we know where it's been, you know, we can get all that information together. That's work on our end, but we're willing to do that for a local sense because of the connections that happen there. But on a national level, you definitely want to build that stuff and make sure when you get booked in a local venue to get that content. Try your best to record it. Try your best to get some photos at the venue, whatnot. Anything to start building these blocks, because that's what we call blindfolded booking. You know, when it's a newer band, we're just basically going to take a chance. And that means there's a lot of critiquing going on, because it's now on the person that booked it to say, all right, I vouched for them. I don't have much going for them. I don't know what the draw is going to be, but we're going to take a chance because, you know, that's what we're going to do.
But I think, as James said, even though you might not have all of the information right up front being a first band, you can get a professional photo. You are able to write a bio. You do have some tools that you can send them, and I think the more organized you look at being a brand new band and presenting that to Wallace or James, they're going to go, wow, I know they haven't played out much, but they have a photo for me already. I have a concise bio. I have some affinity artists that, you know, I know what they sound like. Maybe you even do just a live video just to put on a YouTube channel just so they can actually see how you are.
Demos are great.
Yeah,
We accept
demos.
even if you don't think they're perfect.
Even
We
a link
accept
to a
it.
demo, anything, any initial thing, and I think that's so important because it just makes you're representing your band, and you're kind of a brand to some extent, and you want to look professional and organized to everyone, and that's the first look when you send to somebody, because if you don't look organized and professional and at least make an attempt to be that way, they're just going to move on. And you might not even get an email back because it's just, no thanks, next. Because this business is just, live music is so fast and furious on the booking side, on the marketing side, that you just want to make sure you're giving yourself the best look immediately. Like, just easy access, easy information, the basics that you can provide. I think that goes a long way, and someone like James might be like, wow, this, like, they haven't even played out yet, and they're giving me more things than bands that are actually playing out right now. So I don't know, that's how I look at it. No.
And I think more of your question was how'd you get started, though, in general. In the city, just show up, find the shows, show up, go to open mics, show up. If Taylor got a show, go to her show, be there, talk to people, mingle, be around. It'll work out.
Yeah.
We're a pretty tight-knit community here. Everybody know everybody. So just show face, get your guitar out, get your peoples, do all this technical stuff, but worry about getting in the scene. Just be around. You'll be okay. If I see a guy if I see someone doing 45 open mics, and I see your name every day on Facebook, eventually I'm like, okay, man, what's up? You got a band or something? You want to come do this Tuesday at Grog Shop? That's how I book. So just keep working.
Yeah, you want to build a buzz. You know, I mean, it's when you're looking to get out there and you want to do more shows, you personally are now your own brand. You are trying to get noticed. We will notice you if you are constantly building a buzz and getting mixed and mingled out there. You know, we are aiming to have people come to our places. We are a business. That is what it is. You are also a business because you are the ones that have to look at what you do, and you have to decide if this is worth it for the long run or if this is just something you want to do just as a part-time. None of those are a problem, but on our end, we want to hear about buzz. We want to hear about what's going to be the next thing, because the more and more we get that, the more and more you know we're going to give you to demand. And that equals more money as well on your end, because the biggest thing that happens when we start, you know, we get a lot of artists that are here and they're not making much, and, you know, and we know how that world is. But if you start getting a buzz and you start getting something that we're like, okay, we know what you're doing, you're now more valuable, so that means you get more money. And you're gonna gradually make more money because we're gonna trust you with more and more opportunities. And if you keep slam dunking those opportunities, you will not complain about your pay.
Trust me, you will not complain about the pay.
Because we
Plenty
want
of money
you to
going
be
around.
here.
We need bands.
Yeah, we definitely
so
do.
if you got an idea for a band, you think it's weird, go do it. Because it might work out. Oh
Yeah.
my God.
One other thing that I want to add when you're first starting out and building an EPK, the idea that this is a brand that you're creating is a really important one, and cohesiveness is also really important. So make sure that if you don't have many pieces, make sure they all interlock together properly. You know, if you're a folk duo, your logo should not look like a death metal band. And if you're
Unless you're really about that life.
And it
right.
happens.
So just make sure that, you know, if you have a logo, if you have photos, if you have a bio, and if you have, even if it's just, you know, cell phone video and, you know, the first song that you recorded in GarageBand, make sure that those all connect to each other and form a cohesive whole so that they can do the quick scan of that and be like, okay, I know what I'm getting here. They haven't played out yet, but I know what they're bringing to the table because it all makes sense.
And we always need the first of 3 on shows. So trust me.
There's always opportunity.
It's always the first of 4.
The best feeling, I guarantee you, is when you move from the first to the second to the headliner. These are evolution steps, and there is plenty of size rooms in Cleveland that you can develop in. You know, you may not be the home, you know, you might have a place that's your home base, but that might not be the place that you really need to develop in. Because if you look to the west side, there is places there you can try different stuff out. We are one big community though. These are all the same people. So you really have to get this idea out that if you're growing and you're building these fan bases, you have to really watch what pockets these are building. Because that information will build you up for when you go to bigger markets and you try to see what's going on. Because it will be just like starting from scratch again. Because you'll have this ability to feel like, I know what it means to be in a packed room, but then you'll also be like, I gotta start again because I gotta keep building my buzz. I gotta keep going. It's a lot of work. I will not deny that at all. But as more and more you keep doing it, the more and more you're gonna feel this confidence, because I'll tell you what, we've had artists that literally flown from Coachella to play here because they had a side project the very next day after playing in front of 70,000 people, and they played in front of 10 people. That happens all the time in this business.
It happened last night at Garage.
Exactly. We get this, and they know how to feel that same feeling where they are going in. They're like 10 people, 10,000 people, what have you. That is a different mindset, but you have to be prepared. You have to be confident. You have to pretty much act like it is the same audience every time, because the more and more that shows, the more and more people are going to be like, you effed up. You did not see what was happening tonight, and they will make sure that more people will see it and word will spread, and that will help you grow.
Yes. Follow up on that idea about side projects. Currently doing 3 different bands, and my main band has been around for 30 years. I've got 77,000 photos. I've got 1 or 2 videos, that sort of thing. The other bands I don't have anything for. How do you, should these things get connected? Do you want these side projects in any way related? Should I have a page under my name that then says, here's my main band, here's, what feels right to you guys?
You wanna go first?
I mean, I'll say on this end, like, if your side project is, you know, usually you do a side project because it has to be different than what your other stuff is. You're doing this because there is the solo version of you, there is the, you know, whatever, experimental one, and then there's your traditional, well-known house band. You know, those 3 things can go in a lot of ways, because they're, like I said, you know, we do get one-offs from artists that are huge, but their side band nobody knows, and you really have to go through the levels of getting people to be aware that this member is in this band. But also you have to prepare them to the point where they might not like this band versus that band, because that happens. You know, there's plenty of artists that have many side projects where they're, you know, especially locally, you're the drummer for 5 bands, you're the keyboardist for 5 bands or whatever. We know how that works. So locally, for us, we're probably gonna like that to help it, but we gotta listen to it. We gotta hear, you know, if we know you for one style, we're gonna immediately think, oh, well, this band will work here. But if we find out, no, this is actually way on the other spectrum, well, then that makes us look really bad, so we're gonna have to really have it. So having a condensed way of being able to show what's different from this other project is really helpful. Because again, you don't wanna mislead, and you wanna continue to come back, and you wanna develop this other project as well. So to us, we want to know what it is you're doing and why you're doing it, and what path this should be properly pushed. You know?
If it's drastically different, you need to separate them.
Yeah.
Like if it's totally different, but if everything's kind of similar, you present yourself and like I want to do this tonight. You have something that can accommodate this for this evening. You're probably not in a position to manage 3 bands and have 3 press kits and run 3 Instagrams. It's a lot of work, right? I'm sure. So I mean, I'm sure the music is kind of the same. But if one of your bands is a death metal band, you probably need to change that and get a different EPK. I think a lot of side projects in the city, and I'll know the lead singer from the side project locally, and I trust them. Like, what are you doing? Oh, okay, cool. I'm gonna book you for the show. Your main thing just has to be strong enough to make your word valid to me. This is how I book. If Mikey called me and he got a side project, you know I'm booking you. I don't care. This is Mikey. I don't need EPK. I got Apostle Jones EPK. So as long as it's not too different, I don't think it's a big. You just present yourself. You're still selling yourself.
But definitely factor it in, like, you know, you don't know anybody in that. You know,
Right.
like, it is easier for side projects to be booked locally because we know from this circle. But if you're looking for places that don't really know you or don't know your side projects, that's a whole different structure.
Mhm.
You're basically going at it from the same clean slate as everybody else, you know. You might have been working in this music business for 40 years plus and onward, but at the same time, a lot of the people that you might have started with have dissipated. They're not in this industry anymore, so you're coming from a fresh look. You know, not everybody can connect history as well as, you know, some of these venues. Like, luckily, Beachland and Grog are really good at connecting a lot of dots because we have a lot of history. But there's other venues that don't,
So they're
and
newer.
they're gonna be like, I don't know, and they don't know who to ask either, because we are competitors, but we're also friends. There's a lot of that happens, but that's on the back end. But you got to think of it the same way. If I was to introduce you to something I just did, how would I want to make that attractive enough for somebody to accept it? You know?
But do it.
Yeah, still do.
Do all 3 of your projects.
Yeah, no, don't give up on any of them
Do it,
unless you have to. I mean, there's reasons. We all know.
obviously. But if you have time and people in the team, separate it. Make it 3 different bands. Present them all differently. If that's something you can feasibly do. If you can't feasibly do that, don't waste your time.
Yeah.
Because like, you can't stretch yourself too thin, because then the main project suffers.
True, and you don't ever want your main project suffering. That is a big key.
You don't want the house to crumble trying to build a porch.
Great, thank you. If anybody's looking to create the content they need for their press kits, the videos, photos, getting good recordings done, I want to encourage everybody to check out our website, clevelandrocksppf.org, and look under the local resources link. We have a listing of different businesses, including recording studios, photographers, videographers there. If you have a business in one of those areas or know somebody who does, you can encourage them to use our submission link and add their business to our list. But you can get all the elements you need done in a press kit by visiting that page and finding spaces in Cleveland to get good quality photos done. I would encourage you not to get your band photo done in front of a chain link fence, a brick wall, or the train tracks.
Train tracks, yep.
But I mean, if it fits your style, it fits your style. I want to thank you all for being here today, and I want to thank my panelists for sharing your experience, your knowledge, and your perspective on all of this. And if there's no more questions, we'll be out here to talk and answer some more questions for a little while.
What was that link again?
Cleveland Rocks ppf.org. And if you didn't hear me before, our gallery show next door about the history of the headshot, it includes several current and former local bands and national bands from Cleveland, is ongoing through the end of the month. And make sure you pick up one of these before you head out to get caught up on the upcoming concerts and other things we have going on through Cleveland Rocks, past, present, and future. Thank you, and have a good night.
No, it's
I'm gonna put my hat back on. Clap for me.
you guys are got notes.
I've actually got a question.
All right.
Oh, hey, whoa. So, last minute, everybody, hold on.
Yeah, sorry about that. No, I mean, everybody else can leave. This is mostly a Wallace question, but I wondered if it was going to be relevant to other people. So, about 10 years ago, somebody once gave me the advice to not only have produced good sounding tracks from your album as the only music available online, that having a live demo has value because it gives the venue, the booking people.
For hip hop?
No, just for
General,
music
so
in
like,
general.
is it tracks?
Yeah, but it was made.
Drum
It
track.
was in response to something that you had said earlier, that you said if it's not mastered, don't put it up there. And I'm wondering if there is still.
The live performance is different.
Okay, fair enough.
With your recorded music, you cannot put out half-ass music.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that because I wasn't 100%.
Get your music done before the public hears it.
Yeah. Okay.
No one should hear an unfinished product that's not in the studio with you. And it happens all the time in hip hop, and it drives me crazy. No one should hear it till it's finished,
Yeah.
unless it's live.
Yeah, I think having live is super important because they know what they're getting. They have a glimpse of what it's going to be like at that specific venue and what you sound out outside of recording, because we all know live versus recording is drastically different at times.
Well, again, thank you all very much.
You done now?
We're good. We're clear.
Cleveland Rocks, PP.
Stop.
Or you're feeling your freedom, and the world's off your back. Some cowboy from Texas starts his own war in Iraq. Some humans ain't human. Some people ain't kind. They lie through their teeth with their head up there behind. You open up their hearts, and here's what you find. Some humans ain't human. Some people ain't kind.